Alright guys, welcome back. So you should have watched that How I Met Your Mother clip, which is probably one of my favorite shows in the entire world, and I thought it was hilarious. Anyways, today we're going to go through histograms and how to create histograms. So we already know what a histogram looks like if you kind of remember looking back at the slide. So this is what a histogram looks like on the very right. We're going to create one of those today. So our in-class example says, the list below shows a number of milligrams of caffeine in certain types of tea. Using intervals of 1 to 20, 21 to 40, 41 through 60, 61 through 80, and 81 to 100 to create a frequency table and then construct a histogram. So we're doing two of those three things that we learned today. So as you can see, the intervals that we see here, okay, they're equal intervals. So they both have a range of 19 in the middle. So with histograms, you do have to have an equal size interval for each thing. So let's create our frequency table right here first. So going one at a time, here I see an 8, so through 1 through 20, that's obviously 8's in between there. So I'm going to create a tally mark. Do the same for the rest of those at the table. So I'm going to go a little bit quicker. You can go at your own pace though. So 47, see where 47 corresponds, put a tally mark. 22, 34, 19, 40, 10, 30, I know I said I was going quicker, but I'm really not. 92, 58, 32, 18, run out of room, 20, 12, let's go over here, 85, 39, 4, way over here again, 26, and then 27. Now that we created that tally chart, we're just going to count. Okay? The reason the tally chart is a little bit helpful is that you're not going to miss a number then. A lot of times people will just count and they'll skip a number. With a tally chart and crossing the numbers off one at a time, it's a little easier to do, so then you won't miss a number. So counting the tallies up together, you should have gone 7 for 1 through 20, 8 for 21 through 40, 2, 0, and then 2. And one way to double check is to add all these numbers up at the right to make sure that you get the same number of numbers that are shown on that table. Alright, so that is our frequency table. Alright, hopefully everyone's understanding that. If not, I'll be back tomorrow so you can ask me then. Now we're going to create our histogram. This is a little histogram chart. We're just going to fill it in. So as you can see, here are intervals at the bottom right hand corner. So we're going to use that along with the number of T's here on the very left. Okay, so for our first histogram, we're going to create a chart from 1 through 20. Well, there are 7 T's that had milligrams 1 through 20. So on our interval of 1 through 20, we're going to create a kind of like a bar chart up to the number 7. Obviously 7 is between the numbers 6 and 8, so that's why it's in between there. And then we're just going to shade that in. If you have different colored pencils, it might be a little easier to visualize. Otherwise, do different types of shading, and that's okay too. But you do have to shade it in. So that's our histogram for milligrams 1 through 20. We're going to do the same for the remaining intervals. So 21 through 40, we said about 8 T's have that, so create a little chart with 8. And as you can see, the intervals are about roughly the same size. Okay, so I have that. Then we only had 2 T's that had an interval between 41 through 60. So 41 through 60, only 2 T's. So draw a little bar graph up until the number 2. There is none for 61 through 80, so we're not going to put anything in between there. And then we're going to go through 81 through 100, had, again, 2 T's, so draw a line, bar graph, up until the number 2. Alright, so your histogram, your final histogram should look something like that. If not, you probably did it wrong, but that's okay. Alright, so that is creating a histogram. We did it through a frequency table, and then went on to creating that histogram. What it should finally look like, and I'll go through in a little bit more detail. This is what the final histogram should look like. Obviously, mine looked a little bit better. Alright, so as you can see, there were no spaces between the 2 bars. So that is the definition of a histogram. You cannot have any space. In addition, this little box says because all of the intervals are equal, all of the bars have the same width. So in this case, they gave us the intervals. They gave us 1 through 20, 21 through 40, and etc. But they might not always give you the intervals. At sometimes you may have to come up with your own equal intervals. And it's going to be a little tricky because you have to make sure that you're going from 1 through 20, 21 through 40. Each of those has a 19 range. Alright, so we're going to read a histogram in just a moment. See you guys soon.